is Newcastle United. Wembley is a place for
ease my mind. You make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments. I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hype, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time.
Get in there, people. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Loaded Mag NUFC. We are back. As you can tell, I am on my own at this moment in time. Daz still isn't Wi-Fi friendly at this moment in time, and Chris will be on shortly, so do not worry. We'll be having that conversation at this moment in time. But what a win! What a win! Get in there. Massive, massive win in the Champions League against Benfica, and we're going to get into all the details as well as that as we go along. But people, thank you for coming and joining us. Make sure you're doing all those good things and you're hitting the likes. If you're new to the channel, subscribing, and of course after the show, make sure you're hitting that hype button as well as we talk about. And thank you so much for choosing Loaded Mag NUFC to watch your reaction show with us. Look, it's a fantastic game, but just before we get into that, I just want to share with you that tonight we are going and doing a double act. We have two shows tonight, and at 8 o'clock this evening, we do have Keith Downey of Sky Sports coming to join us to talk all things Newcastle United. So we will be questioning him on a number of different things and asking him his opinion on how things are going to move forward with Newcastle United, looking at Johan Wieser. The good news today about Sandro Tonali, we will get into that later on, that is for sure. So stick with us, come back to us at 8 o'clock. Keith Downey will be on, but for now, it is the loaded reaction, and we're going to get into that in just a second. But of course, Benfica, massive game with Union SG getting the 3 points. We had to make sure that we did the business in this game to really give ourselves a huge chance to qualify in the Champions League and get through to those latter stages. But just before I talk through the game and talk through some of all the important stuff, I'll just go through some of the comments as well. Cheers for the Dino, making sure they're subscribing, and to Dino Talks Football as well. No problem at all. Peter Griffin's in the house. Great to see you in there as well. Jordan 2 for Lives in the house as well. Yes, currently watching Champions League opponents, but there's always time for Loaded Mag and UFC. Great to have you, Mandy. Fantastic result last night. Brilliant stuff. And of course, Andy, great to have you in there as well. We will get to all those very soon. And Lynn, of course, brilliant win. I want you to put in the chat right now who you think is or your man of the match, and say why. Why were they man of the match? Now we know that Anthony Gordon got given the man of the match. We'll come back to that in just a second. But who was your man of the match? Who was your star performer? Who was the player that you were most impressed with last night going into this reaction show? And let us know what you think on that. Johnny, great to see you, Johnny. Hope you're well, fella. He puts evening. Gordon was on fire last night, a bit like the old Gordon, a constant threat, best player on the park. So I'm assuming that's your man of the match, the Champions League's man of the match. But anybody else giving their opinion on who they think is their own man of the match? Who was their standout performer? I've got someone in there that I think was a standout performer, but let us know your thoughts on this as we go through. Andy, of course, we're spoiling you. We've had a little bit of in and out the last week or two with regards to shows Some of you will know, some of you may not know that I was in Barcelona last weekend. So I wasn't around to do the reaction show, and it made it a little bit tight for us to be able to put shows together. However, back in business. Daz will be back in business very shortly, and Chris will be joining me to talk on the reaction very shortly too. But I'm already seeing some of your opinions on who you think was man of the match, or the player that stood out for you the most in there. And what I'll do, I'll star them right now, and we'll come back to them in just a second. There's a few of you. I've seen that Lynn's put one in there. Trippier for Prime Minister has put one in there as well. There's a couple of others. Tom Dixon, another one of our spanners in the house. Sophie B is also in the house. Sophie B, get your man of the match, your star, standout performer. Let us know who that person was, and we'll get it in there. We'll try and mark down as many of them as possible. And of course, make sure you're smashing those likes, not just for me, for Sophie and the other mods as well. Make sure you get them in there. Welcome, Sophie, in the house. So we'll get into it. So the game started, and I have to say I was there at the game. I was at St James's Park. Took my daughter for her first Champions League game. She'd never been. She's desperate to go and watch Champions League match. And first game, I managed to take her, and what a game to go and see. Fantastic atmosphere, superb atmosphere. I will get some of those videos up as the show goes on to give you a feel of what it was like if you weren't one of those lucky ones to be in the stadium to watch that last night. But what I will say is that I thought we started really, really well. I thought we started on the front foot. I thought we started with a lot of confidence, with conviction in our play. It looked like we were dominating the board and playing some really, really good stuff, just without that kind of final ball playing down. There's a few people on social media that have been kind of like hammering Kieran Trippier as one. Now, I don't think Kieran Trippier had a bad game. Please put your thoughts in the chat. Let us know what you think about this. I don't think he had a bad game. I just thought, in my opinion, he was almost playing a little bit too quick. He was playing a little bit too fast. And I think that really affected his game. I really think it affected his ability to showcase his qualities, because his positioning, I thought, was good. I thought his movement was good. He opened up the space. He found a lot of opportunities in space to kind of manipulate the ball. But it was almost, he was playing too quickly. He was trying to, like, without taking a touch, just trying to overplay. And it was going out of play. It was going out for throw-ins. You could see him getting really frustrated with himself. But he was getting a lot of joy on that right-hand side to begin with. And that right-hand side of Murphy and Trippier had a lot of joy down there. And we were playing some great football, linking in with Bruno Guimaraes. And they were really struggling to handle us. And it was a case of, can we get the first goal? And we were pushing. Anthony Gordon on the left-hand side was testing his winger and getting down that left-hand side, trying to get crosses in, winning corners. He was making a really, really positive start. However, after about the sort of like 10 or 15 minute mark, there was the chance for the young Belgian international. Excuse me, I cannot pronounce his name. I'll try and find it in just a second to try and pronounce it. But it was that chance that changed the game completely. So he had the opportunity where the ball was diagonally switched across. Burns sort of misjudged it a little bit. Their player cuts inside, and it's a fantastic save from Nick Pope. I was the opposite end of the pitch. I did not realise how good that save was. Big, strong arm, bounced off his arm and up and over the bar for a corner. It was a fantastic save. And the player is Luke Bacchio, the Belgium international, number 11. Really, really good first half. I thought he played really, really well. And it was that diagonal ball. And I have to say, nothing comes from the corner. We deal with it. But I have to say, from that moment, for about 15 minutes in that half, the tide turned very quickly. And I was actually surprised with how much it turned, is because the confidence started to kind of drip away from us. They gained a hell of a lot of confidence. And from that, really, really kicked into the game, and they looked like they really wanted to attack us, and it put us on the back foot a little bit. And just that one opportunity, that one chance, just completely changed the outlook of the game, like totally. At that point, I was shocked because at that point it was only going to be one goal scorer, and that was us. So the fact that they've then changed that, Lucky Bacchio gets the opportunity, great save, and you're thinking, what is going on here? It was absolutely madness. But for about 15 minutes, they started to get into the game. And at this point, I'm going to bring in the man waiting in the wings to talk about this point, because we're just talking about the first half. Chris, how you doing, fella?
Mate, I apologise. I thought we were half six.
No. Don't worry. Because as I've already explained, you just give me a great segue, is that we have two shows tonight. And for those coming in, we have Keith Downey at 8 p.m. coming to join us to talk all things Newcastle United. So Keith Downey will be joining us. So it gives us a little bit of time to have a little bit of a break in between shows, get prepared and get sorted. But look, don't worry. I hope you've got them here, because I waited for you for this moment, because obviously Champions League win, 3 points in the bag, can only mean one thing, fella. There we go. We're now in place. We're now ready to rock and roll, people. Another excuse to get your likes in. Come on, people, get those likes in. We've got 140 in the chat. Great to have you all. Make sure you're hitting those likes and doing all the good stuff as well. Chris, just before you jumping on, I started talking a little bit about the game. Particularly the first half. I mentioned, get your thoughts on this. I mentioned the first sort of 10, 15 minutes, I thought we looked confident. We looked sort of like dominant in our play. It was all really one-way traffic. And then after that Luca Bacchio chance, where Burn gets caught out, great save by Pope. It almost changed the tide a little bit from that 10, 15 minutes in the game, and then they looked like they'd grown confidence. Was that kind of your perspective on it?
Yeah, mate, that's exactly it. Thinking about the game as I do the day after, especially if we're not doing reaction, I tend to kind of go over the game myself throughout the day. And that's exactly how I saw it. So like the first 10, 15 minutes, I was thinking, we've done all right here. It's a decent start. But it quickly changed, didn't it? Just from that one, I think it was a long ball over the top. And Dan Burn misjudged it, and Luca Bacchio got in behind. And to be honest, like it was an absolutely fantastic save from Nick Pope. He stood tall, and we were fortunate because I think it actually hit the underside of his arm and then just bounced on the floor, and obviously it went away from goal. But I mean, he stood strong there, Nick Pope. But you're right. The initial 10, 15 minutes, I was, we were settling into the game and thinking, okay, this looks good, this looks promising. And then it all very quickly changed, didn't it? And then obviously slightly after that, and sorry if I'm fast forwarding here, but then not long after that Luca Bacchio chance, he then goes and pulls off an absolutely fantastic shot, doesn't he, with his left foot, and curls it all the way. It was about 25, 30 yards out that, and it was a fantastic effort. And he was incredibly unlucky. And I started to worry a little bit then, because I wouldn't say we were playing badly. It was just that you have phases during a game, don't you, where a team, looks, a bit more likely or becomes a bit more dominant. But I wouldn't say we were playing badly. It was just that Benfica kind of upped it a notch and we're getting a little bit confident. And I think José Mourinho said, didn't he, that at points, particularly in the first half, like St. James's was a little bit quiet, and that was probably a little bit of nerves or a little bit of trepidation, thinking, are Benfica going to get on top here? Because we know, don't we, Pete, that in recent times we're not that free-flowing, free-scoring team. And if we were to go 1-0 down, all of a sudden it looks like a bit of a mountain to climb, doesn't it?
It does, and it was a little bit of a worry how quickly we dropped off after having such a dominant start. I talked about Trippier and Murphy looking good down at right-hand side. I know people have got on Trippier's back. I've put it down to a little bit of just a little bit of impatience in his game. He was just trying to play things a little bit too quickly, and the ball was going out for goal kicks or just running out of play. And you could see the frustration on his face. It wasn't down to him just not being very good. You could see the vision. You could see what he was trying to do. He just needed to just relax just a little bit. And he's normally the king of that. He's normally telling everyone else to react, but he was just trying to play a little bit too quick. We looked really good into that point. Nick Voltemada was linking the play lovely. But I was a little bit worried because I wasn't sure how we were going to react. And then we started to get back into the game after that point, particularly the point that you talked about with Luka Bacchio hitting the post. It almost like gave us that wake up call that we need to kick back into gear, and we did. And the press started again, and we started pushing them back. We started to win little fouls or pressure them into putting the ball out of play, and the game just started to turn again in our favour. And it's a brilliant moment for the first goal because the ball gets won back. There's a ball that Bruno plays through, and the rest, as we know, is history at that point because Jacob Murphy does what he does best, and the first goal is in. Anthony Gordon is there on hand with his left foot to slide that ball home, and it's a fantastic goal. As I say, he does what he does best, Jacob Murphy, the assist king, as crowned by Anthony Gordon, the goal scorer. Chris, your thoughts on that first goal from Anthony Gordon?
Yeah, and you know what? It's gonna be a common theme, this, because every goal I absolutely loved yesterday. Absolutely loved every goal, and this first goal, very, very basic, but it was almost like the Newcastle of old. This is what we saw last season, when we were absolutely flying. Very, very simple. I say simple. It was a sublime pass from Bruno, absolutely sublime pass. But just doing the basics right. And I think we'd seen Pete just before that. A crosser coming to the box, hadn't it, from Murphy, and the Benfica defender got there just before. I'm trying to think who it was going to make connection. It might have been
Jacob Ramsey. Jacob
Ramsey it was. Yes. So they've already warned Benfica that was kind of what we were looking to do. And, we know that Bruno can play those intricate passes, those defence splitting passes. And as soon as he puts the ball through, you're looking at it. And, as a fan, and you're going, right, all he's got to do, get near the byline and just put the ball across the box. I mean, when you actually look at Anthony Gordon's finish, I'm not going to say it's scruffy because that's far too overkill, but he doesn't hit it very sweetly, but he does enough. He gets connection on it. He puts his body behind it and just makes sure that he redirects the ball, and then the ball goes into the back of the net. And I made up for Anthony Gordon at that point because you could tell, as we've seen in recent performances, lots of effort, lots of running, and it hasn't just quite clicked for him. But we saw a lot more directness from Anthony Gordon yesterday, a bit more like we'd seen when he played for England against Latvia. We saw, Anthony Gordon really, arguably, at his best. I thought Anthony Gordon was absolutely excellent yesterday. But yeah, in terms of the goal, it was clean, it was simple, but it was almost that simple that they couldn't stop it because it had happened before they'd even had time to react, because Bruno plays that fantastic ball in, Jacob Murphy takes it a couple of yards, whips it in, and then Anthony Gordon's run in the back post. And how many times did we see that last season from Alexander Isak? Where Alexander Isak's just popping up at the back post, putting it in the back of the net, and we saw that from Anthony Gordon yesterday. And yeah, it was a really, really good finish. And do you know what, Pete? I don't know what it was like in the stadium for you. It felt to me like a little bit of relief because I'll be honest, as soon as we went 1-0 up, I thought, we've got this. We need the seconds, but we've put ourselves in with a really good chance here because we put ourselves in front, and because we look so solid defensively, I'm thinking we can go and get 3 points tonight. Oh, you're on mute, mate.
It's okay. I'm trying to work on a file for a video, but yeah, my thoughts are exactly the same. It was that we needed that first goal to really give us that confidence and take it into the game. And as you said, it was a great finish from Anthony Gordon, and one him arriving in the box in those moments to score that type of goal. That type of goal is the type of goal he was scoring 2 years ago, where he was arriving late into the box at the back post, knocking it in from those sort of distances. It reminded me a little bit of the goal against Man United. Remember the game where I think Pope gets injured? I don't know if you remember that one a couple of years ago. It was that goal is the one that it reminded me of. It was such a great finish, and it's the type of finish we needed to see from him. But look, it was the goal we needed to kick into gear to get us going. And at that point, it's a huge sigh of relief to know that we're 1-0 up and we hold the advantage. And I looked round at the Benfica players, and you could see it was almost kind of like a deep breath, because I think they knew at that point it was going to be a long evening. They were desperate to get that first goal or to hold on for as long as they possibly could. And when we scored, that it almost like they were resigned to the fact that this was going to be a very, very difficult night. But I have to say, Jose Mourinho talked in his press conference after the game about the fact that St. James's was a little bit quiet. And I have to be honest, it was. When the players came out and the Champions League noise was on, it was great. The atmosphere was brilliant there, and we really made some noise at that point. But when the game kicked off, it was quite quiet, and the Benfica fans were very loud and backing their team, as you kind of would have expect. And it was only really until the goal goes in that the fans really started to get going. And I think it was almost like the fans needed that after the sort of the last game and sort of recent performances where the attacking form hasn't been there. It was almost like the fans needed something to get them going, and that goal definitely got us going. But a really, really good finish. Brilliant from Murphy. We need more assists from him. We need more goals from Gordon. We got both in that moment. It was just a perfect start. So really, really happy with that overall. We will move on. I do have some videos. I'm trying to sort of work it and upload it as we go along. But we will keep moving on. So the game ticks on into half time. There was a chance. I don't know if you saw this. I imagine you did. Just right before half time, Trippier wins the ball back quite high up on the pitch, and he wins it back and chests it down, and he's traveling towards the box, and I'm literally right in front of it. I'm like there, and we're like in line with him, and everyone's going shoot, and he's almost like holding off for I think a Murphy's run, and then he plays it, and it runs out of play, and everyone's like, "What are you doing? Shoot!" Because he had the goal there, all he had to do was just pull the trigger. So that was an opportunity to go 2-0 up. But you could tell he was frustrated afterwards. He was like, he ran off and he was kind of like hands on his head. Like, what am I doing type thing. Why didn't I shoot? And that was part of the thing. Like people giving Trippier some stick. That was part of my thing, because I'm looking at him, I'm seeing his reactions, and I'm seeing someone that's really trying to do his best for the club, really trying to make the right decisions, and they weren't coming off. And it was almost like he was just realizing it in that moment. So nothing against him. To be fair, the fans in the ground, they got behind him. They were clapping him, cheering him, not letting him get too down on the fact that he was making these decisions. But
it was one of those weird moments, Pete, and I don't know whether you felt like this in the ground, because I did watching it, and obviously I had the luxury of watching it back 2 or 3 times because they showed the replay. It was one of those weird moments, and when you play football, you understand it, where you can almost see how he's thinking as he's doing it. So he controls it, and he's thinking, should I shoot? And then it's almost like he gets like a little distraction. He's like, oh, actually, I might be able to cut this back. And in that split moment, the ball just moves slightly too far away from him. And then he ends up doing nothing because he can't get the ball back because it's gone too far in front of him. And he's probably thinking, I should have shot. And he can't then lay it off because the ball's gone too far in front. So like, it's that little split moment where he's thought, what should I do? Should I shoot? Should I pass? And then the moment's gone. And you're right, you could see the frustration. He was like, oh, I should have just swung at it. I should have just hit it. I should have just straight away just hit it, and get it on target. So yeah, I don't. And plus as well, we're talking with it. Kieran Trippier is a fantastic player, but we're talking about a right back, aren't we? It's not as if it's your main striker and he's having that indecision. Because if it's a striker, he's selfish. He's getting the shot off straight away. He's probably not even thinking what's beside to the left or the right, and he's thinking, I can see the goal, I'm going to take the shot. But it was almost like he was thinking, should I lay this off to someone? Can I give it to someone who's in a better position? So it's that split second decision making.
Just out, and I might have just a really short clip. I hope it's the right one because I've just downloaded it of the celebrations after that particular goal from Anthony Gordon.
Brilliant.
Nice little celebrations from the stands there, and the days just get better and better from those comments. Start by design. Thank you very much for keeping us abreast of the topics for Champions League football. It just gets better and better. If I had another pair of glasses, I'd put them on. But we don't, unfortunately. But yeah, great to see. And the assist king moment, the crowning, was on there as well. We'll get to, hopefully the video shows it. There's a funny bit that I managed to capture with the Nick Pope assist that we'll come to in just a second. But it's 1-0 at half time. Happy with those exploits at half time. Happy with the way that we were playing and how the game was going, Chris. Overall, just short thoughts at this point.
Yeah, no, exactly that. I mean, obviously going in 1-0 at half time was huge. And I didn't look back and think, oh, bloody hell, what a poor half. Because let's be honest, and I was saying this to my blue mates yesterday, we're playing against Benfica. Portuguese, one of the best sides in Portugal. And, Champions League experience, European experience, and they're being managed by one of the greatest managers that there's been. So I'm looking at it and thinking, like, we're 1-0 up. We got that all-important goal. We managed to, not concede. So at this point, I'm thinking, I think we're in a pretty solid position. And like I say, when that first goal went in, I did think Benfica are in for a tough night now because they're going to have to try and come back into this game. And if we can come out second half, make a positive start, why can't we go and kick on? I did still want that second, though.
Yeah, definitely. That was the thing. It was that if we could literally end the game here with the second goal. And that was the conversations around us at half time. It was like, right, let's go get the second. Let's go end the game at this point now. Because one thing I'd noticed, I watched Benfica against Chelsea, and there's a couple of people that I'd spoken to that had followed Benfica, and they'd said that Benfica do tend to run out of steam in the second half. Like they don't have enough in the tank to keep going at the same level. And they did that against Chelsea. They looked good. They looked like they could get back in the game. And then with 20 minutes to go against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, they just had nothing left. And I thought if we could take them long enough, because our fitness levels and our ability to keep going is good for long periods of games. If we got the second goal and push them back, they would run out of steam into that. So that was one of the things that I had in the back of my mind. But the second half starts as we mean to go on. And I have to say, it's a very, very good second half performance from our boys. And look, there were numerous opportunities and corners being created by Newcastle United. I really felt, I'm not going to talk sort of like in particular points apart from the goals, but I really did feel that Nick Voltemade and Anthony Gordon, this was the game for me where they really started, where it almost like was a light bulb moment for both of them, because this was the one game that I've seen this season where they really started to click. Did that seem apparent to you watching it on the TV?
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting you say that, Pete, because in the first half, there was a couple of moments, and we saw it a lot in the second half, and we've seen it in other games as well, where they almost kind of like come together a little bit, and then Nick Voltemade gets the ball, and it's like the understanding is Nick Voltemade, collect the ball, give it off, let him go. And there was a couple of chances in the first half, or a couple of opportunities in the first half where the ball came into Nick Voltemade, and he tried to like flick it round, and it didn't quite come off. And then in that second half, we just constantly just kept seeing the link-up play. And it was as if, like you say, a switch had been flicked and they were both kind of, working in sync with each other. And you're absolutely right. And just to give a little summary as to that second half, just to touch on what you said, like arguably, I think that second half performance was probably the best I've seen all season from this team. I thought second half we were absolutely superb, and it was a joy. And you know what? It was like rewinding to a couple of years ago. When we were in that point where it felt like we were going into every game going, we're going to win, and we're going to perform, and we're going to score goals, and we're going to look threatening. And that's exactly what we saw in that second half.
Yeah, definitely. It was just every attack looked like they were all over the place. Now, one player that we know and we've been linked with, Antonio Silva, was playing number 4 at centre back, and I have to say, he looked like he was ran ragged by Nick Voltemade. He really did struggle time and time again in that game. It wasn't the best shot window performance, I have to say, from him. Doesn't mean he's a bad player, but it certainly wasn't a top performance. But we kept going. We kept plugging away in that game, and in the end, thankfully, we got our just rewards because there was a second goal. And just before that, I just wanted to check something beforehand. 1 second. Yeah. So I'm just checking with some of the team news from one of the games later. But we did get our second goal, people, because Harvey Barnes comes off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Harvey Barnes scores a goal. And that's the second time that he's done that in the Champions League this season, and was great to see. But that wasn't the only special moment about that second goal, because there was a certain assist from somebody that was a very, very special assist. And no, it wasn't from Anthony Gordon. No, it wasn't from Nick Voltemade or Bruno Guimaraes. It was from this man right here, number 1, Nick Pope, with an outrageous assist. A throw that went past the halfway line when it first bounced. I think it was like 5 or 10 yards past the halfway line. That's how long his throw was. Defender, I think it might have been Antonio Silva, tried to get there. I have to say it was a poor attempt to try and retrieve the ball. Harvey Barnes races through, and it's a cool and calm and quality finish to the far post, in off the post, into the corner. The Gallagher erupts, the Milburn erupts, the Leesers erupts. These boys erupt. They go and celebrate as their defensive unit together with the assist maker, and of course the forward line celebrate together as well. Chris, great goal all round, surely.
Oh, mate, yeah, you've summed it up really well there. Yeah, a 65-yard throw by Nick Pope. It was confirmed as Pete. 65-yard throw. But yeah, it almost reminded me a little bit of the first opportunity for Luca Bacchio in the first half. Where the ball came over the top and Byrne went to try and intercept, timed it all wrong, and Luca Bacchio got in. And that was exactly, for me, that was exactly what happened with Silva. He almost tries to intercept, tries to read what's going to happen, in terms of the flight of the ball, gets it completely wrong, and then Harvey Barnes is in. And it's interesting because I was a little bit worried when just before Barnes pulled the trigger, because it looked like he'd left it too late. It looked like the defender was going to come in and get his challenge in or put a block in, but he timed it just right. And it was a really, really clever finish. Really, really clever finish into the corner. I think it went in off the post, you said, didn't it? It went in off the post. But yeah, really, really smart finish. And again, it was so big for Harvey Barnes, because that will give him a huge lift. And obviously that's not the end of it, but it will give him a huge lift. And yet, as soon as it goes 2-0, Pete, and I'm sure you felt like this in the stadium as well last night when you were there, there was just relief. It was just like, right, we're done. Because I couldn't see Benfica scoring 2 goals, given how we performed reasonably well in the first half and how we were performing in the second half, which we just looked in total control then. And I think José Mourinho, again, to quote him, after the game, he said as soon as it went 2-0, this was the noise he made, he went 2-0, it was done. Benfica were just done. They knew that the game had gone too far away from them. and they weren't going to be able to get back into it. But yeah, fantastic assist from Nick Pope. We've been speaking about it in recent weeks and months on the channel, haven't we, about his distribution improving, and we were saying, don't use your feet, just throw it. And that was a prime example of what Nick Pope is capable of, and what he can do in terms of getting us on the counter. But you know what made that goal even more special? And you showed the image there. It was how you saw Sven Botman screaming at the top of his lungs at the fact that Nick Pope had done this assist. Dan Burn runs over. I think Malik Chow runs over. They're all hugging. You had the picture up there. They're all hugging Nick Pope. And it just shows, doesn't it? And people in the chat were saying there, that Nick Pope's just been invited into the leadership group. And that picture there, Pete, that just shows how tight, how much of a unit this defence are. And yeah, it is Malik Chow. I can see the number 12 there. Yeah. Actually, defence and goalkeeper, they're all celebrating and embracing Nick Pope as to what he's just done. But it also shows to me how tight, how much of a unit they are. They will no doubt have all taken pride this season from the fact that defensively Newcastle have been solid, bar Brighton, which we may get onto, where there was a couple of lapse moments. But yeah, it was a nice scene to see, the defenders all embracing Nick Pope, and Nick Pope, enjoying and being celebrated for what was a fantastic assist, and almost, a match sealing moment, because at that point, when we went 2-0 up and Harvey Barnes was put through and then he duly finishes, the game was done.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved that moment. I thought it was a real special moment there where the players went and celebrated. Trippier came to join that group after that picture that we put up on the screen. Trippier came over, and actually Bruno came to celebrate with them as well. He normally goes and celebrates with the goal scorer, but I think he was closer to the defensive unit, so he went and celebrated with those guys, and everyone else went and celebrated with Harvey Barnes. So it was nice, and there was an acknowledgement. I loved it. You know what? I hopefully I've got the right video, because I'll play it. They might seem quite far away. We actually were quite close, but it's the video I'll blame if it doesn't quite go right. Let's see if this works. I love that. It's like for everything. Obviously, the celebration already happened, but what you saw at the beginning of that video is Nick Pope is coming. He's got his arms up like that. He's acknowledging the fans, like the fact that the assist, and the fans gave that back to him, and the chant started. I kind of honed in on Harvey Barnes, because Harvey Barnes straight away, once all the celebration had gone, his arms are up to Nick Pope as if to say, quality that, and they acknowledge each other there, and then that little bit at the end with the lad in front of me, because his dad's got him up on his shoulder, and his hands going all over the place, and he's got the biggest smile on his face, and he's loving it. And that right there is what it's all about. It's what it's all about. I absolutely love it. I turned around to my daughter, because she was actually on the seat behind me. We were both the same number, but one row behind and ahead of each other. I look back, she's got the biggest grin on her face, because she's buzzing that we scored. She's laughing because the lad is just getting ragged around, and he's just like hands up in the air, just going mad. It was just great. It was just a really great goal to be involved in. Nick Pope got given the praise that he deserved. Harvey Barnes again scoring, and it was party time in the home end, certainly in the Leazes anyway, because everyone was just loving it at that point. So. Yeah, just a great goal. Great goal all round. So yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and then sorry, go on, mate. Carry on.
Oh no, I was just saying. No, I agree entirely with you, mate. Yeah, it was brilliant. And as I say, it was for me, particularly at home. It was just that belief. It was like, right, there's the second goal. Shut up shop. Let's get these 3 points and let's get home.
Yeah. absolutely. And it was shot, shop completely shut up at that point because it was party time. Newcastle United then turned the screw, and boy, did they turn the screw, because chances were flowing like wine at this point, and Benfica were absolutely done. You could tell, and José Mourinho was right when it went 2-0. It was game over, and it was absolutely game over. But it wasn't over for this man. This man wanted more, and he got more. And what I have to say is that he scores the goal, but there were 3 people involved in this goal that made it a very, very special goal. As we talked about previously, the connections between Gordon and Nick Voltemada were excellent, and it continued. Lovely, lovely little 1-2 between them. Little touching from Gordon. Voltemada with a lovely backheel flick right into his path. It was seamless. The ball in, cut through like a knife into Harvey Barnes, who finishes it. And I'm just going to say, Chris, before you share your thoughts on the goal, I was kind of hoping that Gordon would square it back to Voltemada, who had made the run. I was kind of going, let's get Big Nick a little bit more energy on this pitch. Let's get him a goal. But he plays it to Barnes. Barnes finishes it just fantastically well. But your thoughts on, for me, goal of the week so far, surely?
Oh, mate, like honestly, that was the goal that got me off my seat the most. I'll be honest. And I actually, so when the goal went in, obviously did my celebration, whatever. And then I rewound it, and I said to Lisa, I was like, Lisa, just watch that flick. And our Callum was sat next to me, and he went, whoa, because it was like, you know, and some people will say, I'm thinking of me blue and red mates here who tried to downplay it. They were like, no, it's just a flick. It was what's good about that? I said, it opens up. Don't downplay this. It opens up that Benfica defense. Because all Anthony Gordon does then, collects the ball, looks up, Harvey Barnes is on his own on the right, obviously because all the players have been sucked over to that side, and it just allows Anthony Gordon to put Harvey Barnes in, and then Julie, Harvey Barnes, another really, really good finish. But that flick, and do you know what, Pete? It was funny when you were describing it, it made me think, you know, what I love most about Nick Voltemada, it's not just about the goals. It's not just about the goals that he's scoring. We're watching it as a fan base, and we're watching his performances week in, week out, and we can all see what he's bringing to this team. And it's so much more. And it made me think, when you know, like after the game, I was thinking about it. It made me think. It almost feels, and I hope this comes across the right way. It almost feels like we're kind of being shown something as fans that maybe we've not seen before. And what I mean by that is, you know, I said at the time, when I've obviously watched a lot of highlight reels of Nick Voltemada, and obviously all the lads were like, who's this, who are you talking about? And I said, to me, he just reminds me of a Berbatov. He looks like a 6'6" Berbatov. He's got a ridiculous touch. He's very, very good on the ball. He's probably not going to score you 20 goals a season, but what he will bring to this team will allow others to come into play. And I suppose the phrase I was trying to say before was like, it almost brings us as a fan base to be more cultured and understanding about football. And I'm not downplaying anybody's knowledge of football, but what I mean is we're coming now to appreciate what Nick Voltemada can do on the pitch, like what he brings to this team. And there'll be times where Nick Voltemada won't score for 3, 4, 5 games, but we're seeing what he's doing on the pitch, and we're going, anyone else who you know doesn't watch Newcastle week in, week out, doesn't watch 90 minutes every week of Newcastle United, he's going to be one of those players where we all know the value that he brings. We all know what he brings to this team. Yeah. And day one, every single game, I've looked and gone, do you know what? You know, people were saying, oh, he's only had 3 shots on target and he scored 3 goals, or you know, he hasn't maybe had the influence that outsiders maybe want in terms of, you know, there was the I forget which game it was, Pete, you know, where he hit the bar and you know, he had the chance where it was blocked on the line. I'm trying to think who was that against.
Was it Forest?
Yeah, it was Forest, yeah, because it was Morato, wasn't it? Morato who blocked it on the line. But it's all these little moments. And as a fan, you're starting to see it and you're going, do you know what? There's so much to this fella. There is so much to this fella. And we're going to be looking back, if we're not already, and thinking, this is an upgrade on Alexander Isak. It's different, but it's an upgrade. It's what he's bringing to this team and how he makes us play. Because I'm watching some of the stuff that he's doing, and it's so rare. Like, he very rarely gives the ball away. He's constantly linking players up, and he's doing his pressing game. He's doing his job for the team. And yes, he's not as quick as Isak. And yes, you know, he might not be as prolific in front of goal, but the technical ability of this fella is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And do you know what, Pete? I wanted to upload this because I thought we were going live at 10:30, and I had a picture. So I'll just tell you what it is, because I haven't got the picture right now.
Yeah.
I saw a picture on X yesterday, and it's Transfer Market. And some of my mates, you know, live and die by Transfer Market. Now, I don't know whether you've seen the image, but in the past, since Transfer Market was created, I think Nick Voltemade is something like 6th or 7th on the list of the biggest increase in terms of from the initial value to the new value.
And
have you got it? His value has gone. Tell me if this is wrong. His value has gone from 30 million euros to 65 million euros in 9 games.
Yeah.
Like, it's increased that much. And it just shows, and I had to remind the boys of this yesterday, because they were all going 69 million, and you bought this unknown fella. And I'm like, trust me, when you see him play, we've been talking about him loads on loads. He was highlighted to us, wasn't he, via viewer. We all started looking into him. He had a fantastic under-21 championships with Germany. And now we're starting to see, you can see why the German president, the Bayern Munich president has been so bitter over him, because he's looking more and more at home every week, Pete.
Yeah.
And he's putting in performances that are literally like blowing me away. The fact he didn't score yesterday, that to me, that third goal was all him. It was all him. Yeah. It was just a little touch, very simple touch. But when you look throughout the game, I'd love to see the stats. I haven't looked or seen the stats, but he very rarely gives the ball away, and he is constantly bringing others into play. His hold-up play is exceptional. Everything about mate, I love everything about him. I really, really do. And there it is, Pete. Go on, you.
No. It's exactly what you were saying. So he's from what it says here. Obviously, we bought him for something like 65 million euros. It says new at the time, and basically what it's saying is his value is almost increased by 35 million. I think that's what it's referring to. Highest increases in the market value in one single update. So what they're saying is now, based on his performances since he signed for Newcastle United, there's an increase in value of 35 million. So you're looking at 100 million. Is it euros? 100. You're looking now at 100 million euros worth of player in 8 or 9 games. That's what his influence has been on Newcastle United. And as you mentioned, there's others in that list over that period of time in one single update. Salah made a massive increase. De Bruyne, Palmer. You're looking at some of the best players to play in the Premier League.
And we're going back there. 2018? You know, this is these are all historical players. Look at Mane, Kane. We're going back 7 years, and Nick Voltemade is on that list. Hazard's on there. Yeah.
So you're looking at some of the best players to have played in the Premier League, like certainly in the last 15 years, and you're looking at that and you're thinking, like, that's the influence. You know what makes me smile is when opposition fans are talking about him like we are. And it's not those salty ones. It's not Liverpool fans. It's not the Liverpool fans. It's not fans that it's not Sunderland fans or anyone like that. It's genuine fans that are looking at like you see Palace fans, you see Brentford fans, you see Everton fans, you see, fans like that on that level looking at him going, wow, like what a player he is. Brighton fans were saying the same. Wow, this guy is proper. I was speaking to a couple of Brighton fans, actually. I've not spoke to Adam yet. I spoke to a couple of other Brighton fans, and they were saying, like, this guy is like, he's something special. Like, he really is something special. Like, he's going to be a top player for you, but he already is a top player. You are right, though. You are right. Like, I'm just desperate for him to score every game. Obviously,
No,
a striker being a striker, he's scoring every game. But actually, I was like you. I kind of walked away last night going, he was
what a performance! What a performance!
Like it's not. You can't even be mad that he ain't scored. I'm certain, like you, I'm certainly not worried. And coming away from a performance like that, there is no one in. If you're an opposition fan, you're going, yeah, but he didn't score this, that, and you are like you're just salty, like you're just jealous.
How many times, Pete, did we say? You're absolutely right. How many times? And I love this comment from Adam, by the way. For anyone listening on audio, Adam says, every time Nick gets the ball, he's so efficient. He never makes the wrong pass. And it's so true. There's very few times where I've seen Nick Voldemar do something and go, oh, mate, it's the wrong choice. Oh, why has he done that? I literally haven't done it. And how many times, Pete, and this isn't me being salty, I'm going to use your expression there. This isn't me being salty. How many times last season before, do we go, he's up as anonymous, didn't do anything, didn't contribute. And, even on times, and then we've kind of protected him, he's gone and scored a goal or 2 goals and we've gone, doesn't do anything for 89 minutes, bang, there's your goal, bang. I don't think we're going to be having those conversations like that about Nick Voldemar because he's so intelligent, he's so good on the ball, and he's constantly looking, as I say, to bring other players into play. And he's so unselfish. He's an unselfish player, and that's what I think makes him unique.
I would agree. I think there was Isak could hold up the ball, but nowhere near like as good as Voltemade. Voltemade, I would say 8 to 10 times out of 10 will hold up the ball effectively, and not just hold up the ball. As you said, he will make the correct pass. And that was it. And he could pass through 3 or 4 players and get it exactly where it intends to go. And you're looking at it. And the one thing I'll say about last night against Benfica, it was a tight pitch, particularly in the middle of the pitch. The midfield was tight. There wasn't a lot of movement. They really packed out that midfield and made it difficult for us to play through those lines. But the amount of times, and I noticed it in the second half, there was 2 or 3 times that Malik Chow from centre-back position finds Nick Voltemade with a direct pass through the middle. And not only is Nick Voltemade able to hold up the ball and hold off his centre-back, 9 times out of 10 it was Antonio Silva, he would be able to turn and find that pass, and it could be through 2 or 3 players or a little flick, and it falls right to their feet. Like, that isn't easy. It's not easy. It might look easy. It might get overlooked, but that is not easy, and that's something that Isak could not do. Yes, Isak could run in the behind, but Nick Voltemade works harder. Honestly, that lad does not stop running.
No.
He'll press. He presses. I think he started the press in the first half when I think from kickoff, actually. He starts the press and he instantly sprints to chase down the first ball. That same sprint is there in the 65, 70th minute in the second half with the centre back. He doesn't stop running. His work rate is actually like not spoken about enough. It's underrated. Like, his work rate off the pitch, like, he is getting up to fitness now to where Eddie Howe wants him, and you can tell. His work rate is so good, but then that little bit of quality in and around things. The thing that I'm seeing a lot more of him, though, which I'm liking, is, for example, like you said, his hold-up play is very good. He'll hold up the ball, he'll make that pass, but his next thought is
get in the box. Get in the box. Yeah.
And I'm seeing that run from him a lot more, whereas, like, if you go back and watch the Wolves game again, he would be making those little runs. It'd be making those little hold-ups, playing it off, and then it wouldn't be a sprint into the box. It'd be kind of like a casual jog. And he wouldn't get there. Now he's like holding it up, playing it off, and then he's turning his man and he's gone. And that's the evolution of Nick Voltemade in this team. And we're going to see more of that. And we've got to remember, he's doing all of this and it's still a work in progress, mate.
Yeah.
Like, we've still got so many levels. And Eddie Howe said it in his presser after the game. He's got so many more levels to go. We're happy with him. He's playing brilliantly well, but Eddie Howe and Nick Voltemade expect more from him in terms of his level. So, look, it was just it was a sensational goal. a sensational goal, a goal that any team, if that was Real Madrid, it'd be plastered all over Sky Sports News. Everyone will be talking about it. It'd be on everybody's lips. And it should be, because that goal was absolutely sensational. Such a great goal. And look, it did end 3-0. That was the end of the game. We got our customary vamos from the captain on the way in. We did get a second man of the match Champions League performance from our left winger, Anthony Gordon. I just want you to tell us about Anthony Gordon from your perspective, Chris. How good was he? He was voted man of the match by TNT and Champions League. How good was he for you in that game yesterday?
I thought he was outstanding. I really did. To be honest, there was a number of really, really strong performances for me yesterday. A number of them. Some people will argue Bruno Guimaraes was the man of the match. Some people will say it was Anthony Gordon. Harvey Barnes, who did incredibly well, to come on. Not easy to come on and have such an impact, which is what he did. But yeah, I thought Anthony Gordon was absolutely outstanding yesterday. And like I said at the very start, I kind of saw a little bit of the performance that I'd seen for England previously. Where he gets the ball and it's like, right, push the defender into making a decision. Are you going left? Are you going right? And he was driving with the ball, and that was great to see. There was a tinge of me that was a little bit frustrated, because I was thinking, where's this been? This is what we've needed. And I hope that he's not just going to be bringing this for the Champions League games. I hope that we see it against Fulham. I hope we see it against Tottenham. And we need to. He needs to stand up and he needs to be counted. But again, he's not doing himself any harm, is he? Because no doubt Thomas Tuchel will have seen that game, or he will have certainly seen the highlights. And we heard, didn't we, Pete? And again, I don't know if you heard this, because obviously I know you were at the game travelling home. But apparently, José Mourinho whispered in Anthony Gordon's ear something along the lines of, I can't remember the words. If anyone in the chat can help me, it was 4 words. Can't remember what it was. But it was something along the lines of, you were unplayable tonight. Unplayable. And José Mourinho said that to Anthony Gordon, and Anthony Gordon obviously said, that it was great to receive that accolade, particularly from somebody like José Mourinho. But you hope, don't you, that this is that switch moment. Oh, here we go. Yeah, thank you, Peter Griffin. Peter Griffin says, "You're too much." Probably José Mourinho went to him at the end, "You're too much," and that is brilliant, and that should give him all the confidence in the world. And Eddie Howe and hopefully the coaching staff will all be saying to him, "Right, Anthony, your season started tonight. This is you now. We need this week in, week out." And if he does, keep performing like that, that left wing berth for England come the summer is going to be his all day long. But he needs to keep performing like that, and he needs to consistently deliver week in, week out with performances like that. And if he does, he'll definitely be on that plane in the summer, which is what he's keen to do.
How good is that? One of the greatest managers in football to come up to you and give you that's like you said, if that's not a motivator to show you that you're capable of playing at the top level, I don't know what is. But
yeah,
I'm so I did see it, Chris. Actually, I was actually looking over at on the final whistle. We're obviously clapping the players and all the rest of it. I was actually looking for the Eddie Howe Mourinho kind of embrace, but I think it had already happened. And when I looked over, I saw Mourinho like this, and I was thinking, who is he doing that to? And it was Anthony Gordon. Obviously, we didn't know what was said until actually just now. I knew there was an exchange, but that's
Gordon came out and said that Mourinho said that to him, "You're too much," and that of someone like José Mourinho, like that's it's incredible, isn't it? It's incredible, and I just 100%. Hope, Pete, that lights the torch paper, and that's the start of his season, because he needs to keep doing that. He can't then come up against Fulham at the weekend and just go missing. We need this week in, week out. If you want to keep playing Champions League football, you want to play on the biggest stage, and you want to be up there fighting for all the trophies, he needs to keep delivering. He really does.
He does. That extra motivation of playing in the top table at the Champions League will always make the difference for people to start noticing you. But actually, people seeing you as a top player, you have to be performing week in, week out, game in, game out. But look, this game, and I'm so proud of Anthony Gordon. I'm really, really pleased with it. I was so pleased with his performance. He absolutely deserved man of the match. There were players there that pushed him for man of the match performance, but I am so pleased with him. And look, I've been saying it for a while with Anthony Gordon that he needs to keep his fullback guessing. It's the one thing I've been saying. You know, he's always predictable, cutting inside onto his right. It's easily defended. And I've said he needs to go down his left. He needs to go down his left. He needs to push the fullback the other side to keep the fullback guessing. And he did it. His first movement against his fullback was down the left. He tries to put a cross in. I think it goes out for a corner. And already the fullback's on the back foot. And I loved watching that. And I was like, that's exactly what we needed from him. We needed him to really put the burners on his fullback. And he did that time and time again. The amount of times he went down his left-hand side and committed his fullback. I haven't seen him for so long do that, like in matches. The amount of times he went down his left, I could probably add them up in that game against Benfica. And he's probably gone down his left more times
over the whole
last night, over the whole of this season, combined. Exactly. And I'm just like, that is what you need. You need to keep your fullbacks guessing. That's what Barnes did last season. When he came in when Gordon was suspended, Barnes was doing that. Going down his left, committing his fullback. His fullback didn't know which way to go, and then he had his fullback beat at that point because he could go either way. Because the fullback is unsure, and when a fullback's unsure, that's when you know you've got him. And Barnes came in this season, played left wing, and he wasn't doing what he did last season. And that's what really annoyed me about Harvey Barnes. And that's why he deserved to be on the bench. But Gordon wasn't doing either. Well, Gordon did it tonight, and he got his just rewards for it, because that was a superb, outstanding performance from Anthony Gordon. Not just the running of the fullback; it's his use of the ball. He very rarely gave the ball away. He won numerous corners by committing his fullback. He very rarely gave the ball away. He made some real good cross-field passes that continued our press and our pressure in the game. If it wasn't working down his side, he cut inside, whip it over the far side, and we continue and to mount those attacks. And I really like that. And stretching the play. He played a lot of balls. He played a lot of his game in the center of the pitch, and that's something that I've seen from Elanga as well. And Murphy did it tonight. There's a feature in our wingers' play now this season that hadn't been there before, where they're coming really narrow and allowing the fullbacks to get high up the pitch. At one point, they came so narrow. So in the first half, there was a point where Gordon comes central, almost like a number 10, into like a number 10 position. Dan Burn goes so far left. He's like literally on the touchline and ahead of Gordon. And Jacob Ramsey's playing left back. Like he's sitting in left back. And it's clearly a tactic. It happened more than once. And it's just interesting, the dynamics of the team and how it's changing in game that Eddie Howe is trying to manipulate. And obviously from the corners that Gordon won, I actually noticed that their plan of actions. They've got little. I don't know if you noticed it on TV. I haven't until last night. Being there, is that they've got little motions for which player is doing what. So they I think Trippier looked over to the bench, and the set piece coach, which must be there. The set piece coach said something. He's turned around and he shouted, "Malik," and they did. Like, I'm not going to put it on here because people. Like, whether people will catch on to it or not, like opposition fans or whatever, or clubs, they did like a little signal, and it was a signal. I think the cross that comes in, the move works perfectly, but the cross is just a little bit too far for Malik Chow at the back post, and I think it goes out for a goal kick or a corner. But it was really, really intriguing to see how it worked. And each corner was different and manipulated different, and there was a different signal for each one, and I was just like, okay, that's interesting. It's interesting to see how they're working. We are becoming a threat from set pieces. We could have scored 2 or 3 from that, but
and do you know what, Pete? Just to add into what you've just been saying there, I just had a quick check on my phone just to see how many corners do you reckon we had yesterday. And this kind of feeds into what you've just been saying, you know, about Anthony Gordon, you know, not just going right, maybe going left. Because if you do go left and the defender calls it, he's kicking it out, or he's making a challenge. You're either winning a free kick or you're winning the corner. But how many corners do you reckon we had, Jesse?
I would say it's got to be double figures. It's got to be. I'm going to say 10.
Ooh, 12.
Yeah.
Which is unlike us. I mean, you know, especially in recent games or recent times, you know, we're normally getting like 3, 4, maybe 5. And quite often, you know, you're getting corners and you're thinking, oh, God, we're rubbish at corners. We never score off set pieces. But even, again, I keep saying this, José Mourinho afterwards, you know, saying Newcastle, they had a team of giants. And you look in our box and you've got Malik. I couldn't believe at the start of the game, this was when they were in the tunnel, I couldn't believe because they had Joe Cole, Les Ferdinand, and what's her name? Laura Woods. And they were in the tunnel beforehand. And there was this massive fella, and obviously Newcastle playing, and a massive player, and I'm thinking, oh, bloody hell, who's that? Sven Botman is huge. He's absolutely huge. And when he stands next to Nick Voltemade, because I'm looking, and I see Nick Voltemade as like, you know, the BFG, there's not that much difference in them. Yeah. There's literally a few inches difference, and you're going, Sven Botman, Dan Burn, Nick Voltemade, Malik Chow, and you're going, this team's massive. So when you're getting these set pieces in these corners, that's why it's so frustrating when it's hitting the first man. You're thinking, get it in the mixer. And we've almost become like a team that José Mourinho used to set up. José Mourinho, when he was at Chelsea, you remember, he just was buying all these big units of fellas, you know, like your Ivanoviches, your Terrys, your Carvalhos, Drogba, big, imposing, powerful players. And that's what Eddie Howe slowly been building.
That must make Jose happy because that's what Jose Mourinho built in 2003. So he's obviously looking at the team that's absolutely decimated his Benfica side, and he's looking at that.
All his team were dead little in comparison to our players. You see them in the tunnel, and they must have been looking, going, "Fucking hell, the size of these."
You know, when you look at someone was saying it in front of me. When the corners in the first half, when it was our end at the Leazers, like you look at their players in comparison to us, and it's like chalk and cheese. Dan Burn won so many knockdowns because he's just so much taller. You put it to the back post and he's there, bang, down, and then we just couldn't get the finishing touch on it. But like, you know what made me laugh? Like I saw on Instagram there was the team photo, Champions League team photo before the game. And like Miley's in that top bracket of like he's in the back row, and I'm looking at Miley and he's like 19, and for 19 I think he's like 6'3" or something like that. Right? He's a unit in himself, and he looks tiny in comparison to all the other lads. Like you said, Botman, Chow, Bird, Voltemade, Joe Linton. Miley, like he looks like the smaller one of that unit of guys, and it's just like. It's absolutely crazy, but they're not just units; they're athletes. You know, Matt Chow covers every blade of grass. Sven Botman absolutely pummeled that striker. That striker must have felt like it was the worst day at the office playing against Sven Botman because he was just so good. Malik Chow swept up everything. Recovery runs were outstanding. Like you just look at that. I thought, you know what, that Luca Bacchio, I thought he had a good first half. But I did not rate him second half. I thought he was
He disappears.
And I'm giving credit to Dan Burn for that because Dan Burn got caught out a couple of times in the first half, and it was almost like Dan Burn turned around and went, I figured you out now. This ain't happening again. And it didn't, and he locked him down second half like he was not in the game at all. So fair play to him on that. But look, Louis Miley, last thoughts before we had a couple of questions to wrap up. Louis Miley,
mate, it's almost like you've read my mind, and you know what? I don't think he will get enough credit that he deserves. I know a few people in the chat said, you know, they thought he was okay, he was all right. For me, Pete, and I was having this conversation with myself in the car earlier today when I nipped out. Louis Miley, Pete, I don't know if you agree. Louis Miley's a 6. Louis Miley is a 6, and he played in that position yesterday, and I just thought, it's almost like, you know, big stage, and he's like, right, got to turn up here. And the more I was thinking about it, I'm thinking, and you'll get my comparison, hopefully. I I've seen Louis Marley obviously play on the left side of the midfield three. I've seen him play on the right side of the midfield three, you know, in that 8 position. And we've seen him again last night in that number 6. And I thought he was brilliant. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. And what I noticed about him, Pete, was, you know, he looked like he belonged there. I mean, obviously we saw this fantastic one from Louis Marley a couple of years ago when he was last in the Champions League. But he was doing the basics, as in, you know, sweeping up. But the brilliant, for me, I look at Louis Marley yesterday, and it's almost as if he needs the pitch in front of him. He needs to see the image in front of him and not be the guy who's given the ball and then told, right, go and do it. It was almost like, you know, he was looking for Nick Voldemade, he was looking for Bruno Guimaraes, he was looking for Jacob Ramsey. Nice little intricate passes, because technically Louis Marley is good, but he's not that guy. He's not that. And I'm going to use this comparison. He's not like an Elliot Anderson type player. You know, that player who can drive forward with the ball. He's capable of it. I'm not saying he's not. But for me, he almost looked like a technician yesterday. And I thought, this is what we saw a couple of years ago. This is the Louis Marley that we all saw, and we were all going, fucking hell, he's only 19. Imagine how good he's going to be in a few years' time. And it just reminded me of that yesterday. Nothing incredibly, you know, unbelievable where I was like, oh my God, look at Louis Marley. But he just looked calm. He looked composed. He was playing forward passes, albeit they weren't 60-yard passes, but he was finding the men and he was tidying up. He was putting out little fires here and there. Give the ball to Ramsey, give the ball to Voldemade, give the ball to Bruno. And it was almost as if, again, I'm going to use that phrase, something clicked. And it was like he'd found his place in the team. He'd found his stage. I really, really enjoyed Louis Marley's performance yesterday. And it just made me think, particularly because obviously Sandro was out because he'd had a bit of an illness. And obviously, you know, we're protecting him and Louis Marley was starting. But I thought Louis Marley was great yesterday. But it just made me think, Louis Marley isn't that 8. He's not that Bruno Guimaraes, that Joe Linton, that player who can play slightly in front. He's that player who basically guards the defence and who can play the game very, very simply, but he can be effective and he can get around the pitch. I really enjoyed Louis Marley's performance yesterday, and I thought he played really, really well. I really did. He won't get the plaudits, he won't get all the praise, but when you look in, you think, did we miss Sandro yesterday? Everybody misses Sandro. But it wasn't at the point where I saw in the lineup and I was like, oh my God, who's Sandro? I thought Louis Marley did really well yesterday.
The biggest compliment I can give Louis Marley is that Sandro didn't need to come off the bench.
No, he didn't.
He didn't need to.
No.
He didn't need. I didn't even see him warm up. Like he didn't come off the bench. He didn't need to be used in any way, shape, or form Tuesday night, because Louis Marley was so good. He was brilliant. Like you said, we didn't miss Sandro. You do miss Sandro as a player, but we didn't miss him in that game. We didn't miss him.
We didn't need him. We didn't need him.
Miley was so good. Miley's ability to manipulate the ball is his ability to cover space is for me is not in question. I've said this, and I wouldn't say I've been harsh on Miley, but I've had very clear expectations of what I want from him. To be the player that I think he can be at Newcastle United's team, and he needs to be better at retrieving the ball. I mean, he needs to be better in a tackle. Now, what I would say is that I saw that last night. The amount of tackles, the amount of balls he was recovering, the amount of tackles he made. It was late on in the second half. We were still pressing so high up the pitch. Why? I have no idea. When I think it was in between the 80th and 90th minute, and like Miley's hunting in packs with one other. I can't remember who it was, but he was hunting in packs with another player, and he slides in and he just crunch tackles the guy, retrieves the ball, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like,
where have you been? Where's
this been? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, this is exactly what I wanted to see from him. I want to see that bite to his game. I want to see that little bit of nastiness, getting stuck into a challenge and letting a player know that he's there. We know.
I wonder whether, and this is what I mean about the 6. I wonder whether, because as the 8, Your responsibility in the midfield is obviously to drive forwards. I mean, Nick Voltemade being there is great because he's coming deep and he's saying, give me the ball, and he's playing little flicks off and stuff like that. But I just wonder whether keeping his game basic and saying, you're there to shield, your job is to shield. It's like with Sandro Tonali. What was the difference, Pete, when we saw Sandro Tonali in the 8, you know, or the left side of the midfield? And we were all going, put him in the 6. Because he gets round the whole pitch, and it's almost like he's got the game in front of him, and he's reading it. And Miley's a clever player. And like I say, he's probably not got the attacking technical ability of the likes of, and I keep saying Anderson. I'm using that as an example in terms of the fact he's a young lad, very, very talented, but they're so different. And people will look at that midfield three and go, well, you know, how many times have we said in the past, Pete, oh, Joe Linton, we should play Joe Linton in the 6. Joe Linton clearly isn't able to, or Eddie Howe doesn't see him as that person who can play in the 6. He's someone who drives forward. I don't think that's Louis Miley. Yes, he can do it. We've seen Sandro Tonali is a fantastic striker with the ball, and we want to see him get forward, but we miss him in that defensive period, and that's why I think Louis Miley, he's put in that 6, and it's almost as if Eddie's saying, listen, you know, just get the ball to Jacob Ramsey, get the ball to Bruno, get the ball to Nick Voltemade. And by the way, you know, when we're under the cosh, put out the fires, go in, crunch, get straight in there. And that, I'm wondering whether now it's almost like that eureka moment where it's like, he's not an 8. And this is why I keep saying about Anderson. Anderson is an 8. Anderson's got that to his game. I think Louis Miley is a 6. And I think somebody mentioned there about maybe doing a double pivot with Miley and Tonali if, you know, we were to change the way that we set up. I want to see Louis Miley in that 6, or just rest Tonali and put Miley in there. What do you think?
I wouldn't. When Tonali is having a rest, I wouldn't be against that. I think he is the go-to for that number 6 when Tonali's not there. I think he has to play there more so than Bruno. Bruno is a number 8 on that right hand side. To stay now. It's that simple. I wouldn't be against, and I think Sophie's put it on here. I wouldn't be against seeing a Tonali on the left of an 8. Miley in the middle, Bruno on the right. I think that could work. But yeah, we should be seeing Miley play a little bit more often in games. You know, when I'd like to see Miley play as a 6, even with Sandro on the pitch, is against the low block. I would like to see this midfield come up against the low block, because what you've got there is 3 technically very good players that can keep hold of the football, that are good with their passing. Like Bruno, it's very, very clear to me that Bruno likes playing with Miley. Bruno always seems to play well with him when he's on the pitch. They've got an understanding. But Bruno also has an understanding with Sandro as well. So why not bring the 3 of them in there together and play that role? There is no reason why that cannot happen. And I wouldn't be against that at all. Now, I think, you know, Miley will come in and out of the team. He'll have to play well again to earn his spot. But I think what he's done now is put himself in the shop window to be maybe one of the first to come off the bench to change the game, to change the dynamics of the game. What I will say, in addition to that, is that I thought Jacob Ramsey was also very, very good. And I genuinely think that if Jacob Ramsey can stay fit and keeps playing like that, I think that Joe Linton will have a difficulty becoming or staying a regular starter for Newcastle United. I genuinely think that, because Jacob Ramsey proved that he could do the defensive work last night, and as well he can manipulate the ball and go forward. I saw him, Jacob Ramsey, making, and you referred to it, the other chance that Murphy put across goal, and it was just took right off Jacob Ramsey's foot in the first half. Jacob Ramsey was the furthest forward running attacking player. He ran ahead of Voltemade to find himself into the box. But then, as I said to you later on, in that first half, he was sitting in at left back whilst Dan Burn was bombing on, and he knew his role in his position just to sit in and see that roll through. And he seems like he's understanding what Eddie Howe is wanting of him, and he executed it superbly well. So I think he's absolutely in the shop window to be starting on Saturday against Fulham. And I think, you know, it could be that Joe Linton finds himself on the bench again. So there's options there, and that's what we want. You want to be having this conversation where you're going, could Miley play in the 6? could Sandro play on the 8? Or could you be saying, right, well, could you be going with, right, Sandro comes back in, Jacob Ramsey on the left, Bruno on the right, or, you know, oh, but what about Miley? And what you're now having is a discussion on 3 or 4 players that are going, okay, who's going to be playing where? And you're not even really talking about Joe Linton. You're definitely not talking about, unfortunately, about Joe Willett. They're not even part of the conversation at the moment. You're talking about 4 players that could play anywhere in those 3 positions, and that's exciting for me. But again, it's one game. They've got to keep it up.
Yes.
But I really, really do like what I've seen from Louis Miley.
Yeah. Totally.
And what I was saying, people might not agree with this, is actually I actually think, you know, he's upped his game since the stick that he got on social media after the Bournemouth game. It's almost like it. I feel, I could be wrong on this, but I almost feel like that's been a bit of a motivator for him to prove some people wrong, some very, very small sections that were hammering him. I think he's almost upped his levels to try and prove them wrong, but we shall wait and see.
And to add in, Pete, sorry, a very quick finishing point on that. And a few people in the chat have, you know, obviously given their opinion on it, and I do entirely agree. I just wanted to clarify. Sandro can absolutely play that left in the 8. Absolutely. I think when I was saying that we were screaming out for him to be in the 6, it was because, unfortunately, Bruno was in the 6 and it just wasn't working. Now, obviously, if Sandro goes into the 6 and all of a sudden the midfield, the team just look a hell of a lot better. If you've got Louis Miley playing in the 6, you can then free up Sandro to play in that 8 on the left, which he does for Italy, if people have mentioned. In fact, the midfield could evolve even more, mate. It could evolve even more because Sandro going forward, having that more advanced role, who knows what could happen? It could make the midfield even stronger. It really, really could. But yeah, just to emphasise, I'm not suggesting that Sandro has to stay in the 6 and he's, you know, not capable of being more advanced. What I'm saying is, I think for me, I don't want to see Louis Miley playing in a more advanced role in that midfield 3. I think the 6 is where he needs to stay. And not forgetting, Pete, as well, when we had that really good performance, albeit I know it was Bradford, Louis Miley was playing in the 6. And he was playing with Bruno, wasn't he? So there's 2 good games we've seen this season.
Absolutely. Hopefully there's more to come from Louis Miley, that's for sure. But he deserves his praise because he was absolutely fantastic. And so was Jacob Ramsey, who's not really been talked about at all. But I thought he was very, very, very good in the role that he played. So lots more to come on that. Just a reminder, people, in half an hour's time, we are back again. So we are mindful we're going to wrap up this review, to have a little break, and then we're back at 8 o'clock. So tell your friends, tell your people. Firstly, thanks for watching. Click those likes. Make sure you do all that good stuff. Click the like, and then when the show finishes, click the hype button, because the hype button, again, like the likes and subscribes, get us into more phone screens and TV screens for people to watch, and it gives us a little bit more exposure. So if you're a fan of Loaded Mag NUFC, if you are a Loaded Mag Ultra, please do consider hitting that hype button and showing your support for the channel. But of course, the main man will be here at 8 o'clock talking all things Newcastle United. Get your questions in on that link. So when you finish this show, go straight over to the Keith Downey link and drop your questions in for Keith Downey. We will be doing a bigger slice of question and answer. And I'm sure myself and Chris have got our questions for Keith Downey on a number of different topics. I know a few people have mentioned the Sandro Tonali discussion. We have kind of held back on that because we're going to discuss that with Keith Downey. Johan Weiss is another discussion, as well as other things as well. So big discussion, and there may even be some transfer discussion in there. So keep an eye on that one for 8 o'clock. Couple of questions to round off, Chris, before we have a little break.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I will be selective. We've had loads and loads of questions. DBN UFC, totally agree. Miley, Boston midfield. I thought, yeah, as we say, Miley had a really, really good game yesterday. Sorry, as Pete just said, sorry if we don't come to everyone's questions, but it's probably because we're going to be discussing it in the next show. We keep down at 8 o'clock. So as Pete says, get those questions in, join the other link, get them in, and we'll do our best to get to them later. Sorry, Pete.
Chris, I think we did have a super chat, so go to that one
first.
We did.
Nobby Clark, well remembered. Nobby, thank you so much, mate. Much appreciated. Nobby says, Pete, based off last night only, I'd love that number 11 at Newcastle. Very entertaining. So was that the number 11 for Benfica? I'm assuming he's talking about. Is that Luca Bacchio, was it?
Yeah, is it Luca Bayo? Is it
Luca Bacchio? No, you're right. Luca Bacchio. It was Luca Bacchio. Yeah.
Luca Bacchio, Belgium international. Look, I'll be honest with you, I didn't even know. It was one of the lads in the Mag Style South chat that said he was a Belgium international. I hadn't seen really anything of him until last night. I was impressed with his first half performance. I wasn't impressed with his second half performance, but he looked a talented player. He was an entertaining player, but he wasn't very impressive. Definitely a game of two halves from him, but he'll be one that I imagine that all Newcastle fans now will probably keep a closer eye on. Keep a closer eye on Benfica to see how he develops, because he's clearly got some talent in his game, that's for sure.
Yeah, the only downer I'm going to put on this, Pete, and I hate putting downers on things, but Luca Bacchio is 28.
Oh, there we go.
So, but it's a good observation, Nobby. In the first half, he did play particularly well. He did.
Yeah. Cross that one off the list. 28 years old.
Yeah, too old for us that. Pete, Sophie asked you, how was Barca? How was it, mate?
Oh, stunning, absolutely stunning. Thank you to the wife for an amazing 4 days. Lovely place. I came back to like cold and wind and rain, and it was like there was one or two clouds there, but it was like blue skies and like 26 degrees. It was great. Really nice. Loved Barca. The place, the people, the environment, the culture, everything about it was superb. I would absolutely go back, and we will definitely go back soon. So anyone that hasn't been to Barcelona, please do go and see it, not just for the football related stuff, but for the culture, for the sort of, from an artistic perspective. There's lots of stuff. Anthony Gaudi as well has got some fantastic like buildings and stuff to go and see. So just everything about it was just fantastic. Thank you very much for asking. It was a tough day yesterday. Being up early hours, it was all worth it. You're flying back early morning Tuesday from Barca to England, and then like literally driving up to home, plonking down my suitcase, my wife getting out, my daughter getting in, then straight up to Newcastle on the road all day. But to put a performance in like that, it just made it all worth it. It did.
Yeah,
it was brilliant.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, we're glad you had a good time, mate. And like you say, you know, it would have been soul destroying, wouldn't it? Putting all that effort in, coming home, picking your daughter up, going all the way up to Newcastle, and then getting trounced like 4-0. It was just been like, wow. But no, what a great play. I did think of that actually, especially when the third goal went in. I was thinking Pete is going to be having a ball here. Pete and Ava are going to be having a ball. So no, I'm really made up. It was a great game. Right, a couple more before we wrap. Nat comes in with a really good comment. Also, Barnes on the right, and let's not forget that. And Harvey Barnes coming on and playing off the right and getting his 2 goals. What were your thoughts on that, Pete? Does that open up the whole right wing argument again, or are you still Harvey Barnes left wing for when Gordon maybe is out or needs rest?
I thought, you know what? I thought it was interesting because they brought him on right wing when they had Alanga on the bench.
Yes. Well, actually, you saying that, Pete, I want to pop that up because somebody did actually say that. There we go, Dave Bowman. Did you find it interesting that Howe brought Barnes on the right before Alanga?
That was the thing that I took away from that move, is that is at the pecking order right now. Is it Gordon, Murphy, Barnes, then Alanga? Is Alanga got to play his way back into the team? I'm all for it. He has to play better, so he's got to put performances in if he wants to get back into this team. That's how it should be. At a top competitive team. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. I actually thought he played really well out there. I thought he exploited the space out there. For me, though, even though he's scoring goals at the moment, I need to keep him as an impact sub right now. Yes. I want to keep him that way. Again, there's a difference between coming off the bench for 10 or 15 minutes and scoring 2 goals and then doing it from the start. If he can replicate that from the start, hey, I'm all for it. But let's enjoy the fact that we have someone that can impact the game off the bench right now in Harvey Barnes, and that will certainly give everyone a bit of a G up if we need it on Saturday against Fulham. Hopefully we don't need it. Hopefully he's coming on to add to what we've got rather than change the game. But let's see.
Yeah. And the last one, it's not really a question, it's more an observation from Peter Moyle. But I think it's a nice way to end. So Peter Moyle says, Voltemade is a one-off. That tall, with that touch and that football brain. Plus, he's obviously a great character. And that is the key. That is the key. We've really landed on our feet with Nick Voltemade, and we're really excited about, you know, what he's brought to the team so far. And surely, Pete, it's only going to be even better.
He'll only get better. And look, every player that you hear from talks about not just how good of a player he is, but how good of a character he is and his personality. Eddie Howe talks about him in exactly the same way. You mentioned Dimitar Berbatov, that similar style. I in my mind, I had Dennis Bergkamp. Just his touches and his movement, like when Bergkamp and Ian Wright used to play together, and like just that little foil, the one touches, the flick round the sides, and that type of movement. Berbatov did that. Bergkamp did it. I just feel like he does it in a Bergkamp way. But either so, he is that style of player. And Berbatov and Bergkamp are very unique players, very unique forwards that play a certain way. And he, Voltemade, definitely fits into that mold, and he is unique. And because he's unique, we need to hone our game to him so we can get that uniqueness out of him to make a difference on the pitch. And we're doing that at the moment. So there's
not a plethora of Nick Voltemades out there in the world. I can't remember seeing, I'm not just saying this as a Newcastle fan, I can't remember seeing another striker other than the two you've just mentioned, in Berbatov and Bergkamp. I can't recall seeing another striker like that. And I think that he just adds a different dimension to this team. And I think there'll be a lot of managers and a lot of owners and a lot of other clubs looking enviously and thinking, could do with someone like him in the team just to offer that something different. But thankfully, he's ours.
He's ours, absolutely. And Sophie put in the chat, he's not just Rudy Voller, he's Geordie Rudy Voller. Remember that one. Geordie Rudy Voller, for sure. Chris, we'll wrap now. We'll give ourselves a break, and then we'll be back in about 20 minutes, people. So make sure you hit the likes and the hype button on the way out of this one. Make sure you shift over. Just click on Loading Mag NUFC. The Keith Downing Show will be there. Click in. Get yourself seated quite nicely in the chat. Get your questions in, and we'll be back at 8 p.m. with Keith Downey. I was going to ask you what we'll sign off with, Chris, but I think the Champions League one probably is the most fitting.
Of course.
A fantastic win. So, people, thank you so much for coming and joining us. Thank you for the super chats, the questions, the comments, your involvement in this show. It's been a great chat with myself and Chris. We will be back at 8 o'clock. We will see you very soon as we sign off from another Champions League 3 points. See you shortly, people.